Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're taking on a topic that often starts with just a single glance and, well, it ends with a commitment that can last more than a decade. We're talking about choosing a companion animal.
And specifically, a breed that almost always tops the list for the perfect, quiet, apartment-friendly pet.
Right. Especially for owners who might be in retirement or just looking for a more, let's say, low energy lifestyle. We are talking about the Shih Tzu.
It really is a classic case of, I guess, mistaken identity in the pet world.
Yeah.
You have a dog that is, undeniably adorable, small, and low energy. It ticks all the boxes on paper.
It really does.
But the reality of what it takes day to day, that often gets completely lost in that charming, fluffy look.
So today we're diving into sources that really force an honest conversation about the commitment this breed requires. We want to move past that cute exterior and really look at the practical long-term logistics. Okay, let's unpack this because it all starts with a question I hear all the time from our listeners. And they're usually pretty frustrated or, just confused.
I know the one.
If you follow any pet advice online, you've seen the narrative. The question is always, why do you keep saying Shih Tzus aren't the easiest dog for seniors? Because, just visually and based on their temperament, they seem to check every single box.
And that's the core paradox we really need to dig into in this deep dive. The popular perception, it completely validates that visual appeal. They're small, they have that famous smushed face and that long, lush coat.
The whole package.
The whole package.
Yeah.
And they project this image of being just perfect, minimal fuss companions. And look, they're gentle and affectionate. That part is true.
I see those pictures everywhere. So what are the blind spots that, those social media algorithms are exploiting when they push the Shih Tzu as the perfect lap dog? They're quiet, they seem perfectly happy, just curled up on a sofa. It looks completely manageable. It just feeds that story that if you want a calm, easy companion, you go small and you go fluffy.
They're exploiting the big assumption that size equals effort, or lack of effort in this case.
Right.
Our mission today is to really explore the central theme that comes out of all this source material. Cute does not mean easy. We have to dig into why this breed, even though it seems ideal with its energy level, can quickly become a much bigger physical and financial burden than anyone expects.
Especially for owners who might be navigating their own age-related issues, right? Like limited mobility or chronic pain or being on a fixed income.
Exactly. This is a crucial exercise in realistic decision-making for you, the listener. We're not here to judge anyone's choice, and certainly not the breed itself. We're just synthesizing real experiences from owners and veterinary data.
We just want to explain why making those surface-level assumptions, judging just by size or temperament, so often causes people to miss the extremely high-demand nature of their daily mandatory maintenance. This is the reality check before you adopt.
Yeah. If we were looking at a boat, right?
Yeah.
We wouldn't just look at the sails and say, oh, that's easy to manage.
Yeah, for sure.
We're not choosing a sleek, modern speedboat here. We're moving toward realizing we just bought a classic wooden sailboat that needs constant, meticulous sanding and caulking and maintenance, or it's going to sink. The initial appeal is strong, for sure.
But the daily upkeep is the critical difference.
That's it.
That's a great analogy. So let's start there then with Section 1, the initial appeal. We have to validate why they end up on those best of list, because the positives are genuine, they're compelling, and it explains why so many people are drawn to them in the first place. So when you look at the fundamental needs of a companion for someone who isn't, leading a super active lifestyle, which is true for a lot of people, not just seniors, Shih Tzus really do hit a sweet spot. They're small. We're talking usually under 15 pounds, sometimes even a bit less than that.
And that small size is incredibly practical. They're easy to lift, they're easy to manage in a small apartment or a condo. They don't take up a massive amount of space in your home or, on your lap.
Exactly. And if you need to rush them to the vet, they're manageable to carry.
Totally.
The physical and temperamental benefits are, they're really their strongest suit. They're known for being exceptionally affectionate, gentle, and often very, very quiet. They bond so deeply with their owners, they just want to be close.
And their energy level is absolutely their strongest selling point for this demographic. They're companion animals in the truest sense of the word. They are not dogs that are demanding you walk 3 miles in the pouring rain.
No, or that'll tear up your house if they're not exercised for an hour straight.
Right. They're content with just a short little stroll around the block to do their business, or often just, moving from the armchair to the kitchen and back. They thrive on that intimate sedentary routine.
They are the definition of a sofa companion. I
Yeah.
mean, they're perfectly happy just sitting right next to you while you read or watch TV or take a nap, and their sociability is quite high. They tend to be friendly dogs who adapt really well to a quiet, predictable household.
Yeah, they become this really comforting, stable presence that sort of structures the owner's day,
For sure.
and we have to highlight their longevity. This factor gets brought up a lot as a positive for people looking for a consistent, long-term relationship.
That makes sense.
Shih Tzus often live very long lives, commonly reaching 13 to 15 years, sometimes even longer. This provides that consistent, enduring relationship, which is hugely valuable, especially for someone whose, social circle might be shifting or who is looking for a reliable source of unconditional love and purpose.
So if you're analyzing them just through the lens of emotional value and companionship, are they loving? Yes. Are they small? Yes. Low energy? Absolutely. Do they offer a long, stable relationship? Yes.
So their inclusion on those lists.
It makes perfect sense on that front. They provide immense, measurable emotional value. No question.
And this is where we have to make the pivot. We have to move from that positive emotional and energetic assessment to the more sobering logistical and physical one.
Right.
While we absolutely affirm the companionship part, those standard lists overwhelmingly fail to address the demanding nature of their daily maintenance. They make the fatal assumption that a small dog means minimal effort.
Okay, wait, let me ask this because it seems like a logical question. If the dog is so low energy and just wants to sit on the sofa, why can't an owner just, delegate the grooming?
That's a great question.
Just pay a professional groomer once a month and you're done. Why isn't that enough?
And that's the exact point we need to confront in Section 2. The required daily maintenance isn't just cosmetic, it's survival maintenance. Nope.
You can absolutely pay a groomer for the big haircut every 4 to 6 weeks, yes. But you cannot outsource the daily prevention of matting, the daily face cleaning, or the proactive ear and dental care.
So it's that constant meticulous intervention.
That's the deal breaker. And that's what the high maintenance reality check is all about. You aren't just adopting a personality, you're adopting a very specific biological system that needs physical intervention every single day.
So if Section 1 was about the allure and the promise, this second section is the intensive, highly detailed reality check that our source material really drives home. This breed is the perfect living example of a high-maintenance dog in a deceptively small and cute body.
Exactly. When we talk about high maintenance for a Shih Tzu, we are not talking about needing expensive toys or, complicated training.
We are talking about basic, unavoidable physical care that has to happen every single day to make sure the dog is comfortable, pain-free, and healthy. And this daily requirement is where the conflict often starts, especially for owners who have limited mobility or strength or flexibility.
Let's start with the coat, with the hair, because this is arguably the biggest point of friction and the single greatest source of, owner guilt. The Shih Tzu has a long, dense double coat. And when you think of a dyed coat, you might imagine, a sleek lab or a short-haired terrier, a quick brush once a week to handle shedding. This is profoundly different.
It's a completely different universe. This coat is more like fine human hair mixed with soft wool.
Wow.
And the density is the key challenge here. It's made up of a softer, insulating undercoat and a longer, coarser outer guard coat. These two layers, plus the dog's tendency to sit and roll and rub against things, means the hair just instantly begins to interlock and tangle.
And mat
Rapidly. The moment any dirt or water or friction gets in there, that whole process just accelerates.
You mentioned the speed of matting. It's actually terrifying. If that fur isn't brushed every single day, without fail, those little soft tangles turn into tight, painful mats in, 24 to 48 hours?
Easily. It's not a gradual decline. It's a very quick descent into real discomfort for the dog.
And the consequence of that matting, it's crucial for you, the listener, to understand this. It is so far beyond just being a cosmetic issue. It causes significant pain.
A mat is essentially a clump of fur that just contracts and pulls tight against the skin relentlessly. It causes irritation, bruising, even open sores underneath it.
And if they get into sensitive areas like under the legs or the groin,
it can actually restrict the dog's ability to walk or move comfortably. Once it gets severe, the only humane solution is to shave the dog down, which often requires sedation because of how painful it is to remove those tight clumps.
So let's pivot that back to the physical demands on the owner. Brushing a Shih Tzu properly is not a casual, 5-minute thing. It requires a specific technique called line brushing.
Precisely. And line brushing means you don't just skim the surface. You have to systematically part the coat, usually with a specific metal comb and a pin brush, and work in these thin layers. You lift the top coat out of the way and brush from the root, right next to the skin, and work your way out.
Layer by layer across the whole body.
Across the entire body. If you skip that, you're just polishing the surface of a knot. You're not actually getting it out.
That sounds exhausting even for a young person. So if we connect this to the demographic that's so often recommended for this breed older owners, it becomes a huge physical constraint.
That's massive.
This process demands working carefully with fine motor skills to get a brush through tight knots in really sensitive areas like the inner thighs or behind the ears where scratching starts mats.
Or under the harness area, a major friction point.
Right. For someone dealing with common age-related issues like chronic back pain from bending over or arthritis in their hands and wrists, that daily choreography quickly goes from being a nice bonding experience to a source of actual physical pain and strain for the human.
The energy it takes to do a thorough, pain-free line brushing session, which can take 20 to 30 minutes, sometimes longer, every single day for 10 or 15 years, is just immense. It's so often underestimated. It's a marathon, not a sprint.
Okay, so we move from the coat to the face, which, ironically, is the breed's most famous feature, and yet its greatest source of necessary maintenance.
This is where the brachycephalic structure, the smooshed face, creates all these structural challenges that demand specific daily care.
Can you break down what brachycephaly actually means?
Sure, it just means short-headed.
Yeah.
And because of that shortened skull, a few things go wrong. Their tear ducts, which should channel tears from the eye into the nose, are often kinked or narrowed or even totally closed off.
Which leads to chronic tearing, a condition called epiphora, right?
Exactly. The tears have nowhere to go but down the face.
And this means there's a non-negotiable daily face cleaning requirement. And this isn't about looks. It's about preventing pain and infection. You have to wipe the tear stains and, more importantly, carefully clean under the skin folds around the eye. And crucially,
You have to make sure that fur stays absolutely dry.
why is that so important?
Because if that area stays damp, it creates a perfect, warm, moist breeding ground for yeast and bacteria. And the tear stain itself, it isn't just water. What we know from owner reports and the science is that the cosmetic issue is often caused by porphyrin compounds.
Wait, what are porphyrin compounds?
They're essentially waste products, usually related to the breakdown of iron in the body. When these compounds are excreted in the tears and saliva, they react with light and oxygen. They oxidize, and that's what causes that reddish-brown stain on light fur.
So it reinforces the point that the issue isn't just superficial. It's a sign of a unique biology that needs this specific daily intervention.
That's it. So skipping this cleaning isn't just accepting a little brown stain. You're inviting rapid deterioration. Skipping just a few days can quickly lead to irritation becoming inflamed, or a yeast infection, or a bacterial infection that needs medicated drops.
And we haven't even talked about the eye structure itself. Their eyes are so large and prominent, exophthalmic, I think is the term.
Yeah, that's it. It means they stick out more, and they don't have the protection of a deep eye socket. So they're highly susceptible to chronic dryness because the eyelids often can't close all the way, and they're frighteningly susceptible to physical injury.
A simple knock against a table corner, or playing with another dog, or even a scratch from a twig.
Can lead to serious corneal ulcers, which are excruciatingly painful and require immediate specialist care.
And again, the physical requirement for the owner is high. The ability to bend over, hold the dog still, and meticulously clean a sensitive, irritated, or potentially painful area. That takes a lot of patience and dexterity. It's just more stress added to the daily routine.
Definitely.
Speaking of things that trap moisture, let's talk about the ears. This is another classic example of a dog's structure dictating a health weakness. Their heavy, floppy ears hang down, trapping all that moisture and heat inside the ear canal.
And that closed, warm, moist environment is the perfect incubator for bacterial and yeast infections. Ear infections are extremely common in this breed because the air circulation is so poor.
And if any moisture gets in there from a bath or just humidity,
It gets trapped, and it allows those organisms to just flourish. This means owners have to be incredibly proactive about checking and cleaning them.
and this leads directly to the problem of delayed detection, which is particularly relevant for an older owner. It is so easy to miss the early signs of an ear infection. You know, the slight smell, the little head shake, the faint redness deep inside.
Until the dog is already showing significant noticeable pain. like holding its head sideways or aggressively scratching at its ear.
And this situation is potentially made worse if the owner's own hearing or eyesight is diminished. Those subtle cues are just harder to spot.
Right. And by the time the issue is obvious, the dog is often in severe discomfort and needs more aggressive and more expensive veterinary care.
Beyond the ears, we have to mention the mandatory dental care. Like most small brachycephalic breeds, Shih Tzus are highly prone to aggressive periodontal disease.
Their small jaw structure means their 42 teeth are often overcrowded and misaligned, which just speeds up the buildup of plaque and tartar. That leads to early tooth loss and severe pain.
So the recommended care to prevent this is brushing their teeth, what, 2 to 3 times a week?
At a minimum. I mean, many owners of larger dogs never have to face this level of proactive oral hygiene. If you skip this, the dog will inevitably need multiple, expensive dental cleanings under anesthesia throughout its life, often starting much earlier than other breeds.
And then you have all the other general grooming logistics. Nails grow fast and have to be managed, which again requires physical ability. And baths have to be extremely thorough to clean that dense double coat. And then comes the most critical step.
The dog must be fully dried.
Why is that so non-negotiable?
To prevent skin issues, we're talking about using a high velocity or a pet dryer and meticulously making sure the undercoat is dry right down to the skin. If dampness stays in there, particularly in the skin folds or under the armpits, you're inviting hot spots, bacterial dermatitis, and chronic itching.
This isn't a quick towel dry job.
No. This is a 30 to 45-minute task that requires patience and focus after every single bath.
So the unavoidable time commitment is the absolute takeaway here. This is not occasional work you can just hand off to a groomer once a month.
Yeah.
This is an everyday, for years commitment to brushing, eye cleaning, and all this prophylactic care. If an owner is choosing a Shih Tzu because they want a low-demand, low-effort lifestyle, this inescapable daily routine fundamentally contradicts that whole desire.
It's a huge burden of daily, high-frequency, low-stakes, but critically important tasks. If you skip brushing, you get mats. If you skip eye cleaning, you get infections. If you skip drying, you get skin issues. It's the accumulation of these small tasks that overwhelms owners who started out with the best of intentions, just thinking a small, cute dog meant an easy dog.
So moving on from those relentless daily physical demands, we have to look at the long-term cost. We're talking about the unavoidable financial and medical burdens tied to the breed's structural and genetic vulnerabilities.
Yeah, this is where the logistics of Section 2 translate directly into the dollars and cents of Section 3.
And this section is so important because these are costs that have to be explicitly factored into a long-term budget. When an owner's capacity, whether it's physical or financial or both, starts to wane, the dog's needs are often just beginning to peak.
Right, and we need to look at this especially for someone who is relying on a fixed income.
So let's clarify. Shih Tzus are not fragile in the sense that they'll break easily, but their unique body structure creates recurring systemic medical problems that owners have to be prepared to manage for that entire 13 to 15-year lifespan.
We have to elaborate on the respiratory issues, the breathing difficulties that are directly linked to their short snouts. The whole disease complex is called brachycephalic obstructive airway syndrome, or BOAS. The dog is literally fighting to breathe.
And the sources identify two main structural problems here, the stenotic nares and the elongated soft palate.
Yeah.
So if you aren't familiar with those terms, let's break them down. Stenotic nares just means pinched nostrils.
It's like trying to breathe through tiny, partially collapsed straws all the time. It hugely restricts how much air they can take in.
And the elongated soft palate.
That's where the tissue in the back of the mouth, which should normally sit behind the windpipe, is actually too long, and it hangs down into the airway, partially blocking it. This causes that characteristic snorting and snuffling and loud snoring that so many people mistakenly think is cute or just normal for the breed.
But it's actually a sign of respiratory distress.
It absolutely is, and the danger here is real. Because of this restricted airway, they are prone to severe overheating. They just can't pant effectively to cool themselves down. Any respiratory stress from excitement or heat can become a medical emergency.
And the risk with routine anesthesia for things like dental cleanings is dramatically higher compared to other breeds. It's a baseline structural problem.
Then you have the ocular vulnerability, which is equally significant. As we said, their eyes are so prominent, and they don't have the protection of a deep socket. This means they are highly susceptible to chronic dryness, which might require daily eye drops, but more frighteningly.
They're susceptible to direct catastrophic eye injuries.
A brush with a bush, a playful swat from another dog, even just trimming their face hair improperly can lead to corneal ulcers, Or, in severe cases, the eye can actually pop out of the socket, a prolapse.
Which requires immediate specialist vet care and probably surgery.
Absolutely. And we also see chronic skin and musculoskeletal problems. The skin issues are often linked right back to incomplete drying after a bath or undiagnosed allergies that are made worse by that dense coat.
Which leads to persistent scratching, hot spots, and of course, those recurring ear infections.
And even though they're small, joint issues are common as they get older. Things like patellar luxation, slipping kneecaps, and intervertebral disc disease often develop, leading to chronic pain that needs careful management, medication, or even surgery in their later years.
So we have a stacked list of guaranteed chronic issues: respiratory stress, eye vulnerability, frequent ear infections, rampant dental disease, and common joint issues. These aren't rare things.
No, these are predictable systemic consequences of the breed's conformation. They are small dogs, but they require big dog medical management and the specialized costs that go with it.
And this brings us to the financial reality, which is often the most heartbreaking part for the owners in our source material. We have to address the direct impact of these recurring, unavoidable costs on someone who is relying on a fixed retirement income or limited savings.
Right. A potential owner might budget for good food, maybe $50 to $75 a month, and their annual shots.
But they so often fail to factor in the chronic, recurring, non-negotiable costs that come with this breed's maintenance.
Let's get absolutely specific on the fixed costs. Grooming is a need, not a luxury, for the well-being of this breed. Based on the extensive owner reports we've synthesized, the cost for regular professional grooming, so a full cut and bath every 4 to 6 weeks, runs consistently between $1,500 and $3,000 per year.
Wow. That's $125 to $250 a month, every month, for over a decade. And that expense can't be skipped without causing physical harm to the dog.
That figure alone, up to $3,000 a year just for haircuts, can eat up a huge portion of a senior's discretionary budget. And it creates this impossible dilemma that we see over and over in the anecdotes.
When the owner realizes they can't physically handle that 20-minute daily line brushing,
They must pay the groomer. But if they cut back on grooming appointments to save money, the dog suffers from painful matting. Then they're facing a mandatory, usually emergency, vet visit for sedation and a shave down, which adds hundreds of dollars to the bill anyway.
so they're trapped. They have to spend the money one way or another.
They do. And then you layer on the specific shock vet bills related to their structural problems. Ear infections, which are extremely common, aren't cheap. You need an exam, swabs, cytology, sometimes a sedated cleaning.
Plus the expensive long-term medication.
Exactly. We know from the source reports that a single complex ear infection can easily cost $300 to $500 per visit. If that happens 3 times a year, the costs just skyrocket. You're talking well over $1,000 a year just for ears.
And the eye issues are often emergencies. Treating a deep corneal ulcer requires a specialist, specific medications, and frequent rechecks.
And needing surgery to fix an eye injury or to address severe oasis issues, these are complex, specialist treatments. Reports consistently show that those surgeries can quickly run into the thousands of dollars, which is far beyond what the average owner is prepared for.
And pet insurance is an option, but it often doesn't cover pre-existing or chronic breed-related conditions like BOAS or dental cleanings, which are precisely the major costs these dogs have.
It's the profound emotional cost that really hits hardest in the source material, though. We read these heartbreaking stories from owners who find themselves just unable to keep up, physically or financially, with their dog's needs.
That stress, the guilt of knowing your dog is uncomfortable or in pain because you can't afford the maintenance or the vet visit, that takes a huge toll.
The companionship that was supposed to enrich their life becomes a source of continuous worry and guilt and burden.
And the irony is that the older the dog gets, the more pronounced these issues become, which is also when the owner is more likely to be experiencing their own decline in health or financial certainty.
It's a total mismatch. The longest commitment period, the late senior years of the dog, is precisely when the owner's capacity might be at its lowest point.
It's stressful for both of them.
Yeah. We have to emphasize that the true deep dive into Shih Tzu ownership reveals a paradox. Temperamentally, they're a low-demand dog, but physiologically, they are an extremely high-demand, high-cost dog. And you can't separate the coat and the face from the personality.
This has been a very detailed, very practical deep dive into what it truly takes to own and care for a Shih Tzu. But before we wrap up, let's bring it back to the emotional connection because they are incredible companions.
They really are.
They're loving, they're loyal, they are genuinely emotionally intuitive. When they're properly cared for, when that physical and financial commitment is met, They bring immense, wonderful joy.
Our goal here was never to deter adoption, but to empower you, the potential owner, with realistic expectations. Companionship should enrich your life, not spiral into constant physical stress or financial burden.
Right. The mismatch between the owner's capacity and the dog's unavoidable needs is where all that heartache and guilt begins.
Exactly.
So, as we always do, we want to leave you with the critical questions. Before you choose this or any other high-demand breed, you need to ask yourself these three honest questions and be brutally honest, using the details we've covered today as your guide.
Okay.
Question 1. Can I physically handle the detailed daily grooming requirements? The dedicated time, the bending, the specific dexterity for line brushing, the meticulous eye care for the next 10 to 15 years, no matter how my own physical health might change.
And this isn't just holding a brush. It's like performing minor maintenance surgery every day.
It really is. Question 2. Can I financially afford the regular, non-negotiable professional grooming costs, that crucial $1,500 to $3,000 a year, plus the significant potential medical bills for chronic conditions like BOAS, ear infections, eye injuries, or major dental surgery?
You have to budget for the worst-case scenario over a decade.
And question 3. This is maybe the most important long-term planning question, especially if you're adopting later in life. If my personal health declines or changes, what is the clear, realistic, guaranteed plan for the dog's continued care?
To ensure they don't end up uncomfortable or suffering from neglect or entering the shelter system because the burden became too great for the people around you.
If you answer any of those questions with even a little hesitation, we really encourage you to pause and consider alternatives.
There are so many fantastic short-haired, lower-maintenance breeds and mixed breeds in shelters that provide the exact same level of affection and companionship with dramatically less physical and financial demand.
Look for low-shedding, short-haired breeds with open faces and healthy ears. Because ultimately, the perfect dog is the one whose needs perfectly match your long-term capacity and lifestyle. We started by saying cute doesn't mean easy, and we have to end by connecting it back to the ultimate welfare of both parties.
And that's the final provocative thought we want to leave you with. Choosing the right dog isn't about picking the cutest or the most aesthetically pleasing option from some online best-of list. It's about making a choice that allows both you and the dog to live comfortably, happily, and stress-free for the full duration of their long life.
And that choice maximizes mutual happiness.
And minimizes potential heartbreak down the line. It ensures that the devotion you offer is matched by your ability to actually fulfill their needs.
Sound advice, as always. Thank you for joining us for this crucial deep dive into the reality of companion animal ownership. We'll catch you next time.